What's up, and welcome back to Gabe Miller Music. Today, we are making a cyberpunk-inspired mid-tempo electro beat from scratch, mostly with the Maschine MK3. It started off as what I thought was kind of a failed session of making beats on camera from scratch, and then I was able to eventually turn it into something more interesting. So stick with me because this will be kind of an interesting case study in workshopping an idea until it actually works, and also in a hybrid workflow of Maschine and my other DAW, Reaper. Plus, I ended up transforming it even further into this. All that being said, let's jump into it. All right, so we're starting off with the Maschine kit. And this is from kind of an older like EDM pack. So I'm gonna try my metronome, just get something basic in there. And then I'm immediately going to go in here, just with mouse and keyboard because it's easier, and scoot these forward until it sounds right. I actually think this could be slower. 95? Yeah, that feels a lot better. Okay, we're gonna ignore the rest of those. So I've got a new group here, and I want Serum. Okay, so now I need to find, I got some presets. I know. I was looking for a particular sound and ended up finding it, so now I just have to find it again. That's pretty close. All right, so I think before I do anything else, let's just sidechain this whole freaking group. So I don't think I want mixer. I still want plugin instance. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so the internal sidechaining mechanic in this thing is pretty good, right? But you know what's better? Devious Machine's Duck is my new best buddy. So I'm just gonna choose this preset. Dial it into taste. Because I want to do these basses through sidechaining, because without sidechaining, they're going to sound pretty stupid. Let's just take this whole pad, right, and copy it, because then I can just pull up like the next preset in the list. So we go duplicate, right? Easy peasy. So now I just need to make sure that I'm back into sound, and now I can mess with this new duplicate instance of Serum. All right, I think maybe we take this and we modify it. So what I really need is, I think, the lo-fi effect that's got like the decimator type beat. And then maybe we tweak this preset a bit. That's already sounding a lot better, I think. I want that whoop. Oh, that's kind of cool. Man, I was ready for this to be a banger, but it's just kind of lame. So let's pull up the homie, Tyrell. It is free. It is good. Let's just record that now. They're in the mix. So that was the initial beat making session on the machine, and rather than making mid-tempo, I just succeeded in making something that was mid. So I finally gave in and did what I was really dancing around doing. So for some context, the original idea for this video was to make this entirely on the machine, including arrangement, and avoid using my classic stack Infiltrator 2 on everything, resample a bunch, stack more Infiltrator 2. I decided at that point it was time to abandon that idea and just stack Infiltrator 2 on everything. So I think that ended up being absolutely the right call, just going with my gut instinct on how I like to make bass music. So let's jump into my DAW of choice, Reaper. All right, so here is the session file. So here's how we rescue a drop from the depths of mediocrity and make it at least a little more interesting or a little more pounding. First of all, we abandon the notion that it needs to sound clean. We're going to let this be as messy and grimy as it kind of demands to be. Second, as I alluded to, we throw Infiltrator 2 on everything. So here is what I did. I rendered everything out. Also, really quick, let me just toot my own horn. This is dumb, like a dumb thing to toot my own horn about, but I dialed in this shifted clap by ear, and that peak, that transient hits like right on the grid. Very satisfying. Anyway, I've done very little to these drums, just some light EQ. That's not what we're here for. We're here for the basses. So I've got this stack here, and let me get rid of the processing. So those are our original donk basses stacked together, our two layers. And I have chosen to keep those layered together. And then I started applying processing. So here are our layers of Infiltrator. This is before. This one's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. It's just distorting the absolute crap out of it. It's compressing it because distortion does compress stuff. And so you can hear those peaks are squashed quite a bit and the quiet parts are brought up kind of a lot. It makes it this much more all-encompassing sound that, yes, is a bit messier, but also is way more in your face and also just more interesting sounding. So then I've leaned into that with this extra distortion. We're basically just stacking distortions in this case. And then I'm ducking that. And the one thing I don't like about this is these little silences now get filled. Which, like, it sounds kind of cool, but that's too messy, I think. One thing for really slammed, kind of heavy genres of music that is really important is the use of silence, because you're compressing everything within an inch of its life. You need to let it breathe somehow. So for an example from a kind of parallel genre, I don't know if there are any deathcore listeners in my audience, but a band like Brand of Sacrifice, I think, uses silence tremendously well in order to accentuate punchy elements, and that's basically what I'm channeling here. And bass music also does this, I think, pretty well. So I have resampled that once again, and I've just isolated the bass donks and then left silence in between. Oh yeah, and I also stacked more Infiltrator because I can't help myself. This is just a bass exciter, essentially. So we've cleaned this up a bit. Now, let's bring in some loud noises. Once again, Infiltrator really bringing this sound to life. Here's before. Like, it's kind of fun, but that's really fun. It's also a bit much, and I don't want to retain that long tail at all. So once again, I resample that. And then I stack another Infiltrator, once again, this low-end exciter. So that's one layer of our drawn-out bass. Here's the other layer. This is fun. So this is another resampled Infiltrator stack. I've rendered that out as well. And this is fun too, because it goes through some iterations. And so I can basically just harvest the notes that work the best for me and layer them as I please. So for this resampled version, I've cut a bunch of lows and I've widened these out because this is already kind of holding down the center and our low end. So now, here's before, here's after. That layers really nicely. And now we've got some nice variation. So in addition, yet another instance of something being infiltrated. This is that original little burp, 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 burp. You can tell because of the way that it is. I think that brings it to life quite a bit. And I've layered that with that longer bass, adding some ear candy, keeping it from being too repetitive. And then I needed something to bring me into a repetition of that drop. So I've got this final element, which is a reversed impact. Infiltrated, and then resampled. That way I could cut it off exactly where I wanted to. And I've got the lows on that. That like sweeps us up into the repetition of the drop. So we run through that a few times. We bring in our ambient synths with a bunch of reverb and kind of chorus type effects, which is fun. That's kind of in your face. I wanted to push it into the background. And then I've also got just some kind of spoopy soundscape things, which are fun. Like, at this point, we're just trying stuff. That's all you can do, really. This element almost doesn't need to be there. So that's our first drop. Let's get into the second one, because this is where we just get stupid. So, we've now witnessed one iteration, basically, of Infiltrator and then resample. So now, I do it again. I take all that stuff, resample it again, and run all of that through Infiltrator for this drop that's like maybe a bit much, but it's kind of abrasive, which is kind of fun. And it's basically a lot of the same stuff. Fairly simple. I just have all these different versions that I can start cherry picking bits and pieces from. So you can hear little pieces of it, like that little pew pew I can extract and just use that good bit. Or this. All at once, that's, I think, too much, and it sounds kind of stupid, like the rhythm is kind of dumb, but I can extract just a piece of that for a nice little sweep in and out. Once again, using silence to my advantage here to create dynamics, even though everything is slammoed. And then I think this is the one I use the most of. I got a lot of mileage out of that one, but I think it's... That one just sounds silly. This is the one I use the most of. That is almost an entire drop on its own, but of course, it could be enhanced if we mix and match, and so that's exactly what I've done. Also, I have processed these bass hits a little differently, because I wanted to enhance the low end, but have a bit more high end than the other versions do, because this is like plenty abrasive on its own. It doesn't need any help. And then I'm just finding little pockets where I can put other stuff from, you know, essentially other Infiltrator presets. And while it sounds a little bit chaotic, I am very much trying to create some pretty defined structure, like have similar elements that repeat, so it establishes like, oh, I did this on purpose. Like that little triplet thing. But that's basically the way this comes together. It doesn't really take a genius to do this, but I think it's really fun. I do recommend you try this. Maybe not with Infiltrator, maybe with Infiltrator. I really like it, but your mileage may vary, of course. I'm also like layering multiple elements here, just to get chaos that I think really works. It sounds a lot more complex than the amount of effort it took to get there. If you'd like to see me further butcher some cyberpunk vibes and also take the excuse to temporarily dye my hair purple and put some goggles on my head, you can check out this video up over here. And if you'd like some more Maschine, you can check out this video up over here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back with a new video in a little bit. It's still making noises!